In every quiet town, on every peaceful street, there are houses that hold secrets. Behind the manicured lawns and the welcoming front doors, stories unfold in whispers. In Robinson, Texas, the Gentry home was the kind of place you'd admire, a symbol of a life well lived. But in the pre-dawn hours of November 9th, 2005, a single phone call would rip through the silence and tear that perfect facade away, revealing the chilling darkness that had been hiding in plain sight all along. This is a story about a fairy tale romance that soured into a waking nightmare. It's about a woman who had everything and a secret she would do anything to keep buried. Darlene Gentry was golden. In her small Texas town, she was the local beauty queen, a title earned not in a pageant, but through effortless charm. She had a smile that could light up a room and an ambition that promised a bright future. She was the girl everyone wanted to be or be with. Keith Gentry was her perfect counterpart. He was quiet strength, the steady anchor to her dazzling light. A family man at his core, his world was built on a foundation of loyalty and hard work. When they met, their story wrote itself. A whirlwind romance, a brief, painful separation, and then a reunion that felt like destiny. They married, built a home right next to Keith's parents, and brought 3 beautiful sons into the world. Darlene became a nurse, Keith a provider. They were the couple everyone looked up to, their life a carefully curated portrait of happiness. But a portrait is only a surface, and beneath this one, tiny fissures were beginning to form, spreading silently in the shadows. The demands of Keith's job kept him on the road. The weight of raising 3 small boys and working as a nurse fell on Darlene. In a move to save his family, Keith took a pay cut for a job that kept him home, but relief never came. Instead, a new pressure began to build. Money. Their income shrank, but their lifestyle didn't. Whispers of arguments over reckless spending began to drift between the walls. The easy laughter that once filled their home was replaced by a heavy, unspoken tension. The perfect portrait was starting to warp.
Was not at the house.
But why take that?
Then came the call. Darlene's voice on the line was strange. Not frantic, not hysterical. It was eerily measured. She told the dispatcher that she'd been sleeping in the kids' room, that she'd woken up to find the back door of their home hanging wide open, and her husband, Keith, was in their bed, unresponsive, with blood on the sheets and a strange pink foam bubbling from his mouth.
I mean, I know he loved me. I know that doesn't
When
sound...
paramedics arrived, they found a man clinging to the last threads of life from a gunshot wound to the head. He would die 2 days later without ever waking. Darlene's story painted a terrifying picture. A random, violent home invasion. A burglar who had stolen some guns and shot her husband in his sleep. But to the detectives who walked through the Gentry home, the scene felt wrong. The edges of the story didn't line up with reality. The first thread in Darlene's narrative was beginning to unravel. Why, they wondered, would a burglar, fleeing a murder scene, take the time to neatly stack the stolen guns just outside the back door? It felt less like a theft and more like theater. Why, as a trained nurse, did Darlene make no move to help her dying husband? She simply waited in another room. And forensics suggest Keith had been shot hours before Darlene made that call. Could anyone really sleep through a gunshot in the very next room? When investigators asked her these questions, the woman who had sounded so calm on the 911 call suddenly went silent. She demanded a lawyer.
I know he loved me. I know that doesn't sound, and I loved him, but our kids were our life. And they still are.
The police knew the answer wasn't outside, but somewhere inside that house. They found it in the bottom of the kitchen trash can. A pair of latex gloves. Tucked inside, a single shell casing and traces of gunshot residue. Lab results came back with DNA from only 2 people, Keith and Darlene. Suddenly, a possible motive clicked into place. A life insurance policy worth nearly $750,000. Darlene was arrested, but in a stunning move, Keith's own parents, convinced of her innocence, bailed her out. They couldn't imagine the mother of their grandsons was a killer. Free on bail, Darlene made a move so strange, so brazen, it would be her undoing. She approached a landowner about buying a rural property. She seemed to love a serene pond on the land. But weeks later, she called him back with a chillingly odd request. Could he fill the pond in? Get rid of it completely. The owner's instincts screamed that something was wrong. He called the police, and when divers searched the pond's murky depths, they found its dark secret: a revolver, the murder weapon. But they had one last move to play. They set a trap. The landowner called Darlene, telling her he was about to drain the pond before filling it. They knew if she thought its secrets were about to be exposed, she would have to act. And she did. The next day, hidden cameras captured Darlene Gentry in wading boots, stepping into the cold water, probing the muddy bottom for the weapon she thought was still her secret to keep. They had her. The mask was finally, irrevocably off. The surveillance video sealed her fate. The jury saw the truth not in her tears, but in her actions. Darlene Gentry was found guilty and sentenced to 60 years in prison. Her sons, the boys she claimed she was protecting, were given to Keith's parents to raise. She is forbidden from ever contacting them again. In the end, this isn't just a story of a crime, but of a profound void. A good man, a loving father, was erased. 3 boys were left to grow up in the shadow of their mother's unforgivable betrayal. It's a haunting reminder that sometimes the most terrifying monsters aren't strangers in the dark, but the ones who smile at us from across the breakfast table. Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, please consider subscribing for more deep dives into complex cases. We'll see you in the next one.